Tony Hinchcliffe spent years building a very specific brand. He was the guy behind the Comedy Central roasts, the Roast King. The guy with no filter, no apology, and a whole podcast built around judging other people's comedy in real time. He wanted to be the man who destroyed people's nights for a living.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
The problem is, somewhere along the way, the internet decided to do the same thing back to him. And unlike his targets, the open mic amateurs, the roast dais members, the people who had to sit there and take it, the internet didn't have a 1-minute timer. Tony Hinchcliffe wanted to be the final boss of roast comedy. Instead, he became the internet's favorite punchline.
Hey, Tom. This is great. Nice shoes, bitch. Did you win those in the divorce?
To understand how Tony Hinchcliffe became a punchline, you first have to understand why people thought he was legitimate. He grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, moved to LA in 2007, started doing open mics at the Comedy Store.
Yeah, I started at the Comedy Store the first time I was ever at a comedy club. I signed up for the open mic at the Comedy Store on a Sunday and was lucky enough to get pulled out. And I had prepared months for my first 3-minute set, and I blanked out when I hit the stage. No. Yeah.
The same club that launched Richard Pryor.
I got my on your so there'll be some evidence. The police come in, I open his hand. This guy's gonna be easy to find.
Sam Kinison.
My name is Sam Kinison, and I like to do this to mic stands. Just to see if it is live. I'm a little different than the other comics you're going to see in the other comedy. Difference between me and them is that you might want to see them again sometime.
And half of the comedy names you grew up watching, he got in the door the right way. Doing the work, opening for bigger names, learning the craft. And then he landed the gig that was supposed to define him, staff writer on Comedy Central roasts. He wrote for the roasts of James Franco, Justin Bieber, and Rob Lowe. He became known in the industry as a sharp, mean joke writer, someone who could craft insults that actually landed. He got his own Netflix special in 2016 called One Shot. He opened for Joe Rogan. He became Rogan's guy in Austin.
I did something that you told me not to do, Joe Rogan. You ready for this? You told me not to do it years ago, and I did it, and it was rough. And I performed stand-up comedy in Connecticut.
Was I right?
You were right, dude.
I told you. It's a place of despair.
Yeah.
And then in 2013, he launched Kill Tony, a live podcast where amateur and professional comedians get exactly 1 minute on stage, then face Tony's immediate verdict.
Why do you like threesomes?
Yeah, two girls are in there, and you know.
Oh, one's not good enough for you?
Not always.
I'm hot off the march.
Are you?
Here too,
Right.
sister.
You're a really hateful woman, Jeremiah.
No, I'm a
That show gave him 3 things: a platform to play judge on everyone else, a fan base that worshipped him for it, and a reputation as the gatekeeper of real stand-up.
Do some more singing, try to incorporate some songs more into your act. Go ahead and do that.
Holy
so
shit.
started working on it.
Oh my God, Rob, that was a long answer.
Hey, you.
It's true. I should have known that I was going to get a minute of nothingness.
At its peak, Kill Tony was genuinely remarkable. It had real comedians, real moments, actual discoveries. And Tony, at his best, was sharp in that chair. He could find the one thing wrong with your set and name it in 15 seconds. The irony is that the same instinct that made him good at that, the certainty, the bluntness, the inability to see any joke as off limits, is exactly what started unraveling everything. Because once you build your entire identity on being the most ruthless person in the room, the only direction you have left is down.
Where'd you go to get that? Big and fat? I love it, though. They match the shoes. You truly are colored coordinated.
It's May 2021, AAPI Heritage Month. Dallas-based comedian Peng has just finished his set in Austin, Texas. He'd been talking about the Stop Asian Hate movement, doing real material, real stuff about a real thing happening in the world.
It's been a really tough year for Asian people in this country. It's been a very tough year. We just had a mass shooting in Atlanta. This guy, crazy guy, went to 3 Asian businesses, shot and 6 Asian women, and then proceed to leave the scene in a Hyundai Tucson. I'm like, yo, if you hate Asians, do it right. Don't drive our cars. Right? How can you love guns but hate Asians? We invented gunpowder. Right? No Asians, no gunpowder, no American Revolution, and all the white people in this country would still be talking quite like the British.
And then he introduces Tony Hinchcliffe.
He needs no introduction. You've seen him on Kill Tony's show. Give it up for the one and only Tony Hinchcliffe.
Tony takes the mic, and instead of starting his set, he turns back to Peng, who had just introduced him warmly, and calls him a racial slur, the one for Chinese people. Then he puts on a fake Asian accent and runs through a series of hacky stereotypes about soy sauce and gunpowder. Then he looks at the crowd for laughing and calls them race traitors.
How about one more time for the filthy little that was just up here? All you race traitors are hooping and hollering. I'm back there watching you puking in a bucket. Oh, we making a gunpowder. Oh, you want extra soy sauce. Oh, you borrow money from us. And you guys just eating it up, you look at you fake mister. I don't even want to make you guys laugh. I don't even like you anymore. Chinese people, they find out we have flying bats every night, and here they come. Ooh, flying soup.
Peng posts the 37-second clip to Twitter. He captions it, "Last week in Austin, I got to bring up Tony Hinchcliffe. This is what he said. Happy Asian AAPI Heritage Month." Within days, the clip had been viewed over 1 million times. Tony was dropped by William Morris Endeavor. Several scheduled shows were canceled. The comedy world had its moment of genuine conversation about what edgy actually means. Now, Tony's position, which he's maintained ever since, and which he repeated to Variety in 2024, is that it was a joke. Comedians should never apologize. And Peng posted the clip to get his own name out there. That is his honest belief. And here's the thing. Tony's framing might work if the actual material were clever. If there were some surgical precision in there, some wordplay, some misdirection, some actual comic architecture, if he'd built something. But what Peng's clip showed the wider internet was, there is no architecture. It's just a slur, then an accent, then a shrug. That's it. That's the joke. It's the kind of material an open mic edgelord who'd watched 5 minutes of roast comedy might try at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. And for a guy who'd just spent years selling himself as the roast king, the heir to Don Rickles, the sharpest knife in the room.
Don, are you the governor of Guam? Aren't you getting a little older? I know your age. The prom's over. All right. It's summer. I know, but you're dressing like some Chinese yo-yo or something. You look like Hong Kong Charlie. Hong Kong Charlie. How you feeling, Ed?
Very good, Don.
Keep your name alive. Great.
Thank you.
It looked less like sharp comedy and more like a very insecure guy using shock value because he didn't have anything else to say in that moment. Here's the detail that makes the whole thing worse. Peng had literally just been on stage talking about Stop Asian Hate. The night before, according to Peng, Tony's bodyguard had already kicked out an Asian audience member who confronted Tony about an anti-Asian joke he'd made at the bar. So this wasn't even an isolated impulse, it was a habit. The internet noticed, and for a lot of people who'd never heard of Tony Hinchcliffe before, the casual observers, the social media people, their very first impression of him was this. Not the Comedy Central credits, not the roast writing, not the Netflix special, a guy with a slur and an accent. 2 years later, in 2023, during AAPI Heritage Month again, Tony posts Happy Asian Heritage Month on Instagram to promote his tour, with what appears to be a Chinese arch and a rising sun in the image. The internet treated it exactly the way you'd expect, not as a redemption moment, but as one of the most tone-deaf promotional moves in recent memory. The Roast King, wishing Asians a happy month, 2 years after the video. That's when a specific joke started circulating. Tony Hinchcliffe doesn't punch up. He doesn't even punch sideways. He just punches down and then complains when anyone punches back. Here's the thing about Tony's fan base. They're not soft. These are people who like the show specifically because Tony is mean. They signed up for the brutality. They wanted the roast. So when the Kill Tony subreddit, not a bunch of critics, not mainstream Twitter, but the actual hardcore fan base, starts posting things like Tony Hinchcliffe suffers from the thinnest skin known to man, you know something has shifted. The complaints from former fans break into a few recurring categories. First, the show has drifted from competitive roasting into something closer to sustained humiliation of people who are clearly out of their depth. Bringing up amateurs who have no business being on stage, then destroying them in a way that feels less like comedy critique and more like watching someone kick a dog.
I practiced.
Yeah, you did?
Mm-hmm. Just for you.
Yeah, who'd you practice on? Your barber?
Yes, my barber.
Looks like he was having quite a laugh.
Second, Tony cannot take what he dishes out. Multiple people note that when someone gets a bigger laugh than Tony, or when a joke lands at his expense, there's a visible change in his energy. The smile that's suddenly a little more forced. The follow-up that feels a little more pointed. Former fans describe it as cringe blubbering. This obvious, transparent display of someone who built their entire identity on destroying other people's confidence, suddenly having zero ability to absorb a laugh at their own expense.
You little British coming in to have your moment. British comedian kills Kill Tony. Blah, 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 blah. Look at this clip. You son of.
Third, the bucket itself is controversial. The central gimmick of Kill Tony is that names come from a random bucket. Fate, luck, the universe decides who gets the minute. But fans have accumulated years of suspicions that the bucket isn't entirely random, that regulars get cycled in more, that the format increasingly serves the show's personalities rather than genuine discovery. What makes the fan backlash particularly cutting is this. If your critics say you're thin-skinned, you can dismiss them as people who just don't get roast comedy. If random Twitter says you're cringe, you can call them snowflakes. But when your own subreddit, the people who specifically came to your corner of the internet because they liked what you were doing, starts writing posts about how uncomfortable it's getting to watch your show, that's not the haters, that's the fans. And when the fans call you the punchline, the joke's officially on you. April 7th, 2025, Kill Tony's first Netflix special drops. After years of building, after the MSG rally made him a national name for all the wrong reasons, after the Netflix deal gets done, Kill Tony, Kill or Be Killed, finally lands on the biggest streaming platform in the world. Almost immediately, Tim Heidecker of Tim and Eric, one of the most respected absurdist comedy minds working, drops a 14-minute sketch called Kill Timmy. It's 14 minutes long and it hits every beat.
What's up, Austin?
He called himself.
Oh, wait. You guys.
The Worm Dude.
I hate Austin. I hate being here. I think you guys are all a bunch of losers.
The awkward 1-minute sets, the immediate brutal feedback, the embarrassed amateur standing there, the judge who acts like he's doing everyone a favor by telling them they're nothing. And then it's over.
Hey guys, you ever hear of this Peter Parker guy, Spider-Man?
No.
He was
He was bitten on the tuchus by and now he's got this like.
No, shut the no, go away. You know what your problem is? Look at you. Look at how stupid you look with your stupid hair.
With a smirk that says, "This is how this looks from the outside." Parody is a specific kind of signal in comedy. It means the subject has become predictable enough to imitate precisely. It means the format has calcified into something people recognize as a format, rather than experiencing it as a show. When Tim Heidecker parodies you, you've stopped being edgy and started being a punchline. But Heidecker wasn't the only one paying attention. In August 2025, a video essay from the channel Elephant Graveyard landed with genuine force in online comedy discourse. The video, titled How Comedy Was Destroyed by an Anti-Reality Doomsday Cult, takes a 90-minute look at the Rogan-centric Austin comedy scene, and Tony Hinchcliffe emerges as one of its central figures. The essay, amplified by Mark Maron and others, frames Kill Tony not as a discovery platform, but as a system that funnels hopeful comics upward toward a small number of established names, with Tony at the pyramid's face. The word cult shows up. The phrase multi-level comedy scheme is in the discourse around it. Audience members from forums described the video as articulating something they'd been feeling for a while, but couldn't quite name. One person put it cleanly. I had heard Tony on a comedy podcast as the guest. The entire conversation was him talking about how brilliant he was, while never saying a single funny thing. And that's the shift. He went from the guy who roasts others to the guy the comedy world is now roasting. He went from respected craft practitioner to established institution, and not in the good way. The cool outsider. The corny institution. When Tim Heidecker releases a parody of your show right after your Netflix debut, and it gets more positive attention than your actual Netflix show, you've crossed over. You may be the butt of the joke now. May 2026, Netflix's roast of Kevin Hart. This is the biggest roast special in years. Hart is a genuine A-lister, the room is stacked, and Tony Hinchcliffe shows up ready to deliver. And to be fair, he delivers. Just not in the way he intended. During his set, Tony tells Hart that the black community is so proud of him, and then delivers a punchline involving George Floyd.
Black community is so proud of you. Right now, George Floyd is looking up at us all, laughing so hard that he can't breathe.
Civil rights activists object. The Wayans brothers, veterans of comedy who've sat on more roast daisies than most people have watched, say the joke wasn't funny enough to justify being told. D.L. Hughley calls it out. A petition demanding Netflix donate roast proceeds to the Floyd family's nonprofit gets around 10,000 signatures in under 24 hours. And the broader conversation isn't even really about whether the joke should exist. It's about whether it's actually good. The consensus landing in the wider discourse. It's not shocking in an interesting way. It's shocking in a lazy way. There's no twist, no misdirection, no construction. It's just the can't breathe callback with no architecture around it. Meanwhile, at the same roast,
to be funny, jokes about black people or like it not a joke. It's not. That's worse. Like you're not joking about. Are you? Are you saying I'm gonna go? You know you can't do that, but you can.
She tells the crowd that Tony must be using Crest white supremacist strips on his veneers, a callback to the Puerto Rico garbage joke. She asks who's keeping Joe Rogan's body parts warm while Tony's here. The room lights up. And Tony, the guy who built his entire identity on being the last person who could be rattled, visibly reacts. He smiles tightly. He nods slowly. He fires back in the moment by calling her a cold, frigid you-know-what, but the real response comes later on his podcast. He calls her a word I won't repeat here. He insists the news articles saying she lit him up are wrong, that nothing is real, that you can't trust media coverage, that he actually did great. He mocks her appearance, her age, her career trajectory. This is the playbook, and it's always the same. When criticism arrives, Tony's first move is never to engage with it honestly. It's to attack the person delivering it, declare the whole situation fake, and announce that he actually won. He says things like, "You can't believe anything you see or read on the news anymore."
Unbelievable. There's news articles because the news isn't real. Nothing is real.
After a night where he was objectively dunked on by Chelsea Handler in front of millions of people on Netflix. He frames himself as the real comedian doing real roasts while others are soft. He frames Handler as a teleprompter reading non-writer who doesn't understand comedy. He frames the backlash as coming from mentally ill liberals. And this is precisely why the internet has decided he's the punchline. Not because he makes dark jokes. Plenty of great comedians do. But because the moment the darkness comes back at him, the mask drops instantly. The ruthless judge becomes the most sensitive guy in the room. You can't be the person who tells everyone else their confidence is misplaced and then fall apart when someone points out the mascara analogy. Let's put the whole picture together. Tony Hinchcliffe built a career on one core idea, that the truest, most authentic comedy is the stuff that makes people flinch, the stuff that doesn't apologize, the stuff that takes aim and fires and lets everyone deal with the shrapnel. And he was good at it for a while. The Comedy Central roast credits are real. The Kill Tony format genuinely did discover comics. The roast writing is legitimately sharp in places. But here's what his career actually looks like from outside the Austin comedy bubble. He has a Netflix special from 2016 that he quietly had removed from the platform because he apparently decided retroactively that it wasn't good enough, which is a remarkable move for someone whose brand is never apologize and never slow down. He dropped a racial slur on a comedian who had just been talking about Stop Asian Hate, lost his agency, never apologized, and then used AAPI Heritage Month to promote a tour 2 years later. He told a Puerto Rico joke at a political rally that bombed in real time in front of thousands of people, and then explained that he was actually the only person who knew about the landfill situation. He showed up to one of the biggest roast specials of the year, delivered a George Floyd joke that drew objections from the man's family, and then called the woman who outshone him in the room an obscenity on his podcast. And his own fans, the people who came to his corner of the internet, specifically because they liked what he was doing, have started calling him thin-skinned, the rigged bucket host, the guy who can't take what he gives. The internet's take on Tony Hinchcliffe has evolved from edgy but legitimate to try-hard and embarrassing, not because he makes dark jokes, but because of the gap between the persona and the reality. The persona, the fearless man who will say anything and feel nothing. The reality, a guy who gets dunked on by Chelsea Handler and spends the next week telling everyone he wasn't really dunked on. Tim Heidecker saw it clearly enough to parody the whole format in 14 minutes. The Elephant Graveyard spent a decent chunk of time documenting how the machinery works. Kill Tony's own subreddit is posting about bad vibes and thin skin, and the AAPI Heritage Month tweet is still living rent-free in people's heads. Tony Hinchcliffe wanted to be the final boss of roast comedy. Instead, he became the internet's favorite punchline. And unlike the amateur comics he puts in the chair, the ones who get 60 seconds and then have to listen to whatever Tony decides they are, the internet doesn't have a timer. If you've got a favorite Tony Hinchcliffe cringe moment, whether you think he's genuinely funny and just misunderstood or completely outdated and bitter, drop it in the comments. I want to know where you land on this. Like the video if you watch till the end. Subscribe if you want the next one.